الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولوطا إذ قال لقومه يتأتون الفاحشة وأنتم تبصرون وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أخوف ما أخاف على أمتي عمل قوم لوط. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praises are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May His choicest salutations and blessings be upon His most beloved, our master and our leader, Sayyiduna Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We thank Allah ta'ala for the favors that Allah ta'ala had bestowed upon us. We thank Allah ta'ala for the favor of Iman and Islam. This is a very important and the greatest favor that Allah ta'ala had granted us. That's why we make this dua, Allahumma thabbitna ala al-iman wa amitna ala al-iman wa ahshurna yawm al-qiyamati ma'al iman. Oh Allah, let us be firm on our iman, let us die with iman and raise us on the day of Qiyamah with iman. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alameen. My dear respected elders and brothers in Islam, the world we live in today is filled with different tests and trials. And the most important and crucial test that we need to pass in our life is the test of Iman. And the test of Iman will never ever change, but rather it will come in, or it will rather change and come in different forms. And as we go closer to the day of Qiyamah, the tests of Iman will intensify. Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. That do people think that they'll just have Iman and they won't be tested? But rather these tests will come, present themselves in a harsher and bolder way. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in two hadith I will give you, tells us of the intensity and the outcomes of these tests. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, قد يأتي على الناس زمان الصابر فيهم على دينه كالقابض على الجمر. That a time will come that if someone wants to remain firm on their deen, it will be like them holding a hot coal. It will be so difficult. And in another hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam encourages us to do good deeds and protect our iman. He says that بَادِرُوا بِالْأَعْمَالِ فِتَنًا كَقِطَعِ اللَّيْلِ الْمُظْلِمِ. That do good actions before such fitnas will come, it will be like the parts of the night. Like as the night progresses, it gets darker, the fitnas will get worse, they will become more and they will be more intense. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, these fitnas will be such, these trials and tribulations will be such, يُصْبِحُ الرَّجُلُ مُؤْمِنًا وَيُمْسِي كَافِرًا. A man will wake up in the morning as a believer, but when he goes to sleep at night, he will be a disbeliever. وَيُمْسِي مُؤْمِنًا وَيُصْبِحُ كَافِرًا. He will go to sleep at night as a believer. When he wakes up in the morning, he will be a disbeliever. يَبِيعُ دِينَهُ بِعَرَضٍ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. He will sell his deen just for some enjoyment in this dunya. Now amongst the greatest challenges to our iman, or of the greatest challenges to our iman, is the breakdown and the collapse of haya and modesty. The shame and modesty, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, that when a person does not have modesty in him and shame in him, then that person can do whatever he wants. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying there's no hope for such a person. And in another hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, that إِنَّ الْحَيَاءَ وَالْإِيمَانَ قُرِنَا جَمِيعًا. That modesty and iman, Allah Ta'ala had put both of them together. فَإِذَا رُفِعَ أَحَدُهُمَا رُفِعَ الْآخَرُ. When one of them is taken away, then definitely the other will be taken away. Now this shamelessness and immodesty has become a scourge in our society. If you look at the illicit activities that take place amongst our youth, there are very few that are safe. The extent of marital infidelity that takes place, what people are watching, and the different type of filth that they are exposed to. In fact, just few decades ago, how non-Muslim women used to dress was considered to be shameless. Today, our own Muslims are dressing like that and is considered to be normal. But even worse than that, and the pinnacle of all of this, is that now there is a normalization of homosexuality, of marriage between the same genders. This has now become normal and is even being promoted in our society. To such an extent that this has reached such a level that anyone that does not support this movement and so forth, they are considered to be like criminals. We ask Allah Ta'ala to protect us from this. Now it's interesting how sins work, is that when someone commits a sin, that person naturally hides away, or it's made and considered to be as taboo, or put under the carpet. A person deals with it on a personal level. This sin, unfortunately, is such that it is seeking global recognition, and it is being promoted all throughout the world. If you look at the government, certain governments are promoting it, different departments of education are promoting it, educational institutes, the media, entertainment houses, even certain retail giants in a marketplace are promoting it. So what they are promoting is, they are saying that those people who are following this path of life, they are a victimized minority and they deserve certain protection and certain care and so forth. And the excuses they use is that they were born in this way, it's not their choice and so forth. These are all things contrary to the teachings of Islam. Now, how do they desensitize us? If you look at the West, how would they desensitize us to make us promote or to make us at least accept this as a norm? So the ulama mention, or if we look at it, what they do is they make popular personalities, politicians and celebrities promote such things. So people look up to these people. So what happens is, if they are saying that it is fine, then people become desensitized to it and people start promoting it and acting on it in their own personal capacity. What they have done is they have taken this rainbow color and have associated it with their group and what they are promoting. So now this rainbow color is coming onto the different packaging of certain items, on clothes and toys. So when people look at this now, they become desensitized and they understand that, or they look at it like that this is a norm and it is fine of what people are promoting. Also on a government level, what they are putting into the syllabuses of our children, to accepting these things as normal and so forth, state-endorsed curriculums, brainwashing and mentally conditioning our children into accepting these type of things. And our children, they are spending 6 or 7 hours in school every day, so they are being exposed to this on a daily level. But the most effective tool is that of media, movies, cartoons. This is the most effective tool. In fact, one media house, and I quote what they say here is that where we take this information is important. The average American watches 6 to 7 hours of television a day. This has been the most effective tool to desensitize people towards people who are calling towards same-sex marriages and so forth. So this is their, or rather a very effective tool that they use. Now this month of June, according to them, is known as the Pride Month. Why is it known as the Pride Month? And why is this abhorred act in deen being promoted so much in this month? So what happened was, in 1969, on the 28th June 1969, there was a gay bar called Stonewall in Manhattan in America. Now at that time, this law was not accepted in America. It was not considered to be something acceptable. So the police would raid these bars and they would shut them down and so forth, because they were going against the constitution and so forth. But in this specific, when the police went to raid this bar on this specific date in the 1960s, then a clash happened with the people as well as the police, and riots took place afterwards. So these people now started getting a voice. And later in the 1980s, there were two pro-sodomy activists, one by the name of Marshall Kirk, and the other, his surname was Madsen. They chalked out a 6-point plan to show that how this act needs to come into society. It needs to become acceptable in society. So firstly, what they will say is that talk about it as loud as possible, promote it as much as possible. Number two, those people who are involved in this act, they should be portrayed as victims. Number three, those people who are supporting and the activists for this act, then in the constitutions and in the government, there needs to be a justice clause which supports them and say what they are doing is justice. Number four, they need to be looked as good. Number five, those that are victimizing them, they need to be looked at as bad. And number six, they need to solicit funds, get different funds, so that they can promote, obviously, what they are promoting on the different scales that they are promoting. Now, as humans, we will understand that this is something that is not normal. Rationally, before we give the Islamic perspective, but rationally this cannot be accepted. How is something that just a few decades ago was not accepted by all different groups of society, except a few pockets of people, but now is accepted today? It is a known fact that opposites attract, right? Even this works in inanimate objects such as magnets and so forth. And finally, if you look at their own clauses, the International Federation of Family Development says that children growing up in healthy, married, two-parent families are more likely to lead happy, healthy and successful lives than those who have not experienced the same level of family security and stability. So this wasn't accepted just a few years ago, and now unfortunately it's regarded as something that is accepted in our society. Now we as Muslims, how should we view this and how should we look at this? The first thing we need to understand is that in certain things we do not have a choice. We have been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala lays out our laws and how we should live our lives. Allah ta'ala never give us a choice what gender we need to be. That Allah ta'ala decided for us, and we need to accept that. Like you don't have a choice where your eyes need to be, where your ears need to be, and so forth. These type of things are decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to accept that Allah ta'ala is the sole decider for all of these things. The second thing is what we need to protect ourselves from is this normalization and desensitization. You see, today the world we live in is such that we are exposed to so much different fitnas and trials. So initially what we'll say, this is such a bad thing. But as time goes along, we start becoming desensitized. This is normal. Allah Ta'ala speaks, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gives us the example of this in a hadith, of what the Jews and the Christians would do. They would go and see people doing wrong, tell them once it's something bad, then the next day that no, it's normal, and finally they fall into this trap. There's a nice story that is mentioned. There was once a king, and the king, for whatever reason, he had some type of illness. They had to cut his nose off, or part of his nose off. So when one of his ministers saw him, they started laughing at him and saying that, look how you look. So he says, because he was a king, and generally kings don't like things to not go their way, so he said, because you're laughing at me, your nose must also be cut off like mine. So they cut his nose off. This minister had a high position, some other people were laughing at him. Eventually, their noses got cut off because you spoke against, or you went against the king. And the people of that village, it became like a trend now that people must cut their noses. So people live like this. After some time, someone came into the village with a normal person with a normal nose. The people started laughing at him and say, look at you. But he was normal. So what we are reaching such levels where the abnormal is becoming normal. So we must not become desensitized to this. What is happening, this is being promoted on such a scale that no, it's normal, it's fine. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi. That person who sees evil should try and stop that evil with his hand. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. If he can't stop it with his hand, then at least with his tongue. فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ. If he can't stop it with his tongue, then at least in his heart. The minimum you can do is say that, Ya Allah, your command is being broken. This is not acceptable. وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And that is the weakest form of iman. And the third thing we as believers need to do is that we need to believe that this is incorrect. The second or the next level after desensitization is to make you believe that the wrong is right. And this is not acceptable in a court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person does any wrong, and considers it to be wrong, then that person's iman is still intact, and yes, he will get sin. But that person who does wrong, and he considers it to be right, then that person loses his iman. This is called istihlal in deen, where you consider a haram act to be halal, or even an halal act to be haram. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from this. The whole story of Lut alayhi salatu wassalam, we should all take out the time and go read the incident of Lut alayhi salatu wassalam. The people of his time, the fitna that they were involved in was this fitna. He called them to turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they refused. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then destroyed that nation. What did Allah ta'ala do? Allah ta'ala lifted them up to the skies, and Allah ta'ala turned them upside down, and Allah ta'ala destroyed them. Right, and that place is the Dead Sea. We see it every day. They got a beeper here to say that we overtime. Right? And the second thing is, there are many ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I just mention a few. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ مَنْ عَمِلَ عَمَلَ قَوْمَ لُوطٍ. The curse of Allah ta'ala is on those people who does this action. إِنَّ أَخْوَفَ مَا أَخَافُ عَلَى أُمَّتِي عَمَلُ قَوْمِ لُوطٍ. That the worst thing I fear for my ummah, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, is this action of the people who do the amal of the people of Lut. So we ask Allah ta'ala to protect us and protect our children. What we need to do with our children is three things. Number one, the first step is that we should control how our children are influenced. Yes, we all have to use the internet, we have to have friends and so forth, but we need to be actively involved with them, and we need to control what they do. The second step is we need to teach them what is right and wrong. Sit down with our children. Don't let them just be. Go through the motions. They go to school, go to madrasa. Sit down with them. Explain them. This is right, this is wrong. Explain them who is the true legislator. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Explain them that we need to live our lives according to the deen of Allah ta'ala. That all other ways of life is not accepted in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us sit and explain this to our children. And number three, let us make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and beg Him. Lut alayhi salatu wassalam, the Prophet, he said two things. When he saw this act, he did not shy and say that, okay, never mind, these are these people, let them do what they want to do, and we do what we want to do. He said it straight, Inni li'amalikum min al-qaleen, that we dislike your action. We do not need to be apologetic in any way. We should make it clear where we stand, that this action of yours is incorrect. And secondly, he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we need to make dua, رَبِّ نَجِّنِي وَأَهْلِي مِمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. That, oh Allah, protect me and protect my family from the evil that they are doing. So we ask Allah ta'ala to give us understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.